The first replacement was 15 years ago when I was 40. Within 6 weeks I had the infection. You've had this operation thinking that life is going to be so much better now because you're not in pain, you're able to walk, you're able to go back to normal. And then all of a sudden then it's like, right, this has now happened. Is all that gone? None of this was really explained to you. It was just like it's 1 in 100 to get an infection. So you just hope you're not that one. I knew something was wrong because, one, it was very painful. I couldn't move the leg because it was so painful to move. It was bright red and extremely, extremely hot. And I was ill. I had a high temperature, felt sick. I started hallucinating. My then husband called the doctor, GP come out, literally took one look at my hip and said, no, you need hospital and you need to go now. And obviously they then do the blood tests to look at your infection level, and mine was sky high because your infection level should be around about 5. The CRP should be 5. Mine was over 280. That's how bad raging the infection was. Because the first operation they did on me, they took 1.5 pounds of infected flesh out my hip. So that's how infected it was. So I was thinking, had I done something wrong? Is there something I could have done to stop it? And then the next thought was, what's going to happen now? I was in hospital for 5 weeks and then sent back home, obviously on antibiotics and everything. Unfortunately, within 3 weeks, I had another massive infection and then taken to Southmead this time. Had another deprivement, and they also replaced part of the hip. In hospital again for 6 weeks, home. Had another infection within 2 weeks, back in hospital. It would go dormant, if that makes sense. When I was in hospital, I was on IV antibiotics, quite strong. It would seem to sort of like clear it, but it was dormant underneath. And then when I got home and I was on oral antibiotics, which aren't as strong, it would flare back up again. They were trying everything they possibly could, sort of operation-wise and antibiotic-wise, because they kept saying they didn't want to take the hip out. I was getting to the stage where I was like, yes, I can do things properly now, as in walk and get in and out of bed correctly. And then you have the operation and you go back, and that's the frustrating bit as well, is that you got to go right back to the beginning after every single operation, and that recovery seems to take longer and longer and seems to get further and further away. They decided to take the hip out and put spacers in, which is what they did. I went back to the ward, come round, went to get up, passed out in pain. Everybody rushed around me. I went for an x-ray and they found that they'd fractured my femur during the operation and they didn't realise. So I then had to go back the following morning to have the femur repaired. So that was another operation. They took the spacers out and then I was just over 8 months without a hip. 8 months without anything, which is quite bizarre because you're not allowed to. I couldn't walk at all, so it was either wheelchair or hopping around on crutches.
And you were here?
Yeah, I was here. That's why I got no door frames, because I couldn't get the wheelchair through. The femur had to repair and become strong enough to have the new hip put back in to support it. So those 8 months were challenging. I couldn't go out and do the shopping. I couldn't go out and take the kids anywhere because I couldn't drive, obviously. So it was a strain. My two daughters sort of had to look after sort of the housework, and I try and do what I could, but it was a lot of pressure on the kids, which is very unfair. When I left hospital, yes, I got a perching stool. I got a commode for the bedroom because it was a long way from the bedroom to the bathroom. But once you're given that and you're discharged from hospital, apart from the initial checkups that you go to make sure everything's all right in the infection clinic, you have no contact with the hospital whatsoever. It's almost like the only thing we want to see you about is for medical reasons and nothing else. From when I had the initial operation to the last one, which is when I had the hip taken out, I was still being paid from work, but because it was taking 18 months, they then medically retired me from work. So I wasn't earning any wages. So that was a massive financial strain on us. It's just the fear of, am I going to walk? Especially when they took the hip out. Because they took the hip out for 8 months and it shrunk sort of, I don't know, about 3 inches. So because obviously the muscles and ligaments and everything shrink back up. So when I went to have the new hip put back in, the surgeon straight away said, we don't know if we can make it the same length as your other leg. So beware that you may have a leg slightly shorter, which did, but it was so minute, but it still makes that difference. Your balance is a little bit off. All in all, I was in and out hospital for about 18 months. But to fully 100% recover probably took me about a year, because the leg was really weak, and I really did struggle with walking on it for a long time. I've never had any physio whatsoever. When I first come out of hospital, I used to set myself targets. So I'd go out and I'd walk at the road so far. Then we've got a set of garages at the road. So I walk out to the garages and then back. And then just round the corner, we've got a set of bollards. And, a week later, I'd walk out to the bollards and then back. And I'd continuously do that until eventually I could walk around the block. And I'd have to do that within sort of 3 weeks of being out of hospital. But that was my target. But I used to go out walking every single day, because if you don't, it becomes very stiff. And then when you move, it's really, really painful. So as they say, if you don't use it, you lose it. How am I doing now? This year I had another hip replacement and I'm absolutely fine. The time was taken, the consultant was happy to sit and talk to me. Didn't matter how much time they were talking. It was, you didn't feel as if they were trying to get out the door, or that sort of thing. So the time and space was there for you to be able to chat and ask all the questions that you want to ask. And again, the only thing that probably was missing was the well-being. That still, and the finance and all that still isn't there. But the communication and the feeling that they got time for you is much, much better than it was in the past.